Love, love, until I feel that breath of the Spirit flowing in me.
Hello, welcome to Spirit of Life. My name is Geraldine Lee, your host, and our guest is Pauline Mawanda. She's from Uganda. Welcome, Pauline. It's great to have you here, and you've been here now for a couple of weeks. Yeah,
Yes.
and we'd like to get to know you more, and then we'll talk about your faith journey. So, what do you do? What kind of work do you do?
Well, Geraldine, I am Pauline, as you said, and I am a mother of 4. And I'm part of a community, a covenant community in Massacre called Holy Trinity Covenant Community. And within this community, I basically am connected, and most of my time I work with a youth-to-youth ministry.
Fantastic. Yeah. Yes, and I suppose that your faith journey sort of led you to be in ministry. How did you get involved in the faith?
Well, it's very interesting because I grew from this very small village in a family of 4, and I was the only girl. And for me growing up, it was like I love my family so much, and they gave me a very good foundation, I guess, of faith, of character and virtue. But in a way, my dad, because I was the only girl, he was very strict in the way he brought me up. And somehow it gave me a lot of fear, and I was very quiet, I was very timid, very afraid. And at some point, I remember as I went to university in my second year, I came in touch with this group. It is the Charismatic Renewal. And I was introduced to a Life in the Spirit seminar.
Oh, yes.
And as I went through this program, something just happened in my life. As I opened myself and allowed the Lord to touch me, and I experienced a deeper love of God in my heart. And this brought freedom, this brought understanding of my personality, and in a way it opened my journey to begin serving the Lord. And yeah,
that's fantastic. You must be a very open person. Is that how you came to be touched by God, through your openness?
Yes, and in a way the people loved me. I was very afraid somehow in the background, but they sought me out and they encouraged me, and it helped me to open up. And I felt something that they have in their life I do not have, and so I was yearning and desiring to experience what they had.
Yeah, so these were the organizers. You could see God's love in their hearts, and you could feel it.
Yes. Actually, the first time I was in this group, the person who gave a sharing that night was speaking about the love of God. And I felt he was talking about something he had experienced. And deep in me, I yearned for that. And that's how, step by step, I was like, God, I desire you more and more. Yes.
Yes, and did you go through a step of, sometimes with these Life in the Spirit seminars, they have like God's forgiveness and God's love. Did you have to go through that stage?
Yes, sure. The love, especially praying for me to receive the love of God and to be open up to surrender my life to Him, and to receive healing. And especially the day of the praying over for the Holy Spirit. It was just very amazing. And as I sat and people laid hands on me and prayed over me, I just felt this immense love of God and a joy filling me and a freedom that totally set me in a new position to be able to say, wow, this is something very good. Yes.
Yeah, you can see that you have that joy of God on you.
Yes, yes.
And what did you find that was this course a long course that you did?
In my time, we did it for 8 weeks. So every Sunday we would have a teaching, and then towards the end of 8 weeks, that was the time of praying over. And It actually began the journey because I continued to journey with this group in a way to continue to grow in the Lord and to continue to learn more about prayer, you know, and it was a long journey that bring me to this place today.
Yes.
Yes.
What have you experienced of God's character in this openness of the 8 weeks? What did you experience of God's character?
I think it was God loving me as Pauline. You know, no matter what everybody said about me, it was more of God is a loving God, and He loves me as personally as Pauline. Yes.
Yeah, that's powerful, isn't it?
Yes.
And where did you go from that after
So from this experience, that was my second year in the university. So I continued to be part of the prayer group, continued to be formed, continued to grow in understanding the love of God, in understanding prayer, in being open to the gifts of the Holy Spirit, to discover who I am. And actually this is what leads me. When I left university, so I still became part of the community back at home, and this is how I entered Holy Trinity community. So it kind of gave me a forum, a place to be able to put my gifts into practice. And this is how I come to be working with the young people.
Oh, right. And what about that fear you had from when your childhood? Was that still apparent?
I think it was, in a way, God has been slowly helping me to overcome as I learn to trust in Him, as I learn to know that I am not alone, and the Holy Spirit can give me the grace to do what God has called me to do.
So trust is kind of like the opposite of fear, and you've been stepping out with doing this interview, the first time for you.
Sure, yes.
Yeah, no, it's great to be through the Life Spirit Seminar. I've been through it myself. Yeah, and it's great that you started also getting involved in the ministry. Yeah. So on that note, we're going to go for a break now. You're watching Spirit of Life. Stay tuned, and we'll be back in a few minutes. Hello, welcome back to Spirit of Life. I'm Geraldine Lee, your host, and our guest is Pauline Mawanda. She's been sharing her faith journey. Hi, Pauline.
Hi, Geraldine.
Welcome back to the show again. And you were sharing about your Life in the Spirit seminar and how you were at university. Like, what were you studying?
I was studying to become a teacher, and I graduated as a teacher of religious education and economics. Actually, straight from university, I was placed in a school where at first I taught for 4 years. That was before I got married to Fred. And then after our marriage, I transferred to another school where I taught for more 5 years. And in this school, what I remember, because of my earlier experience and encounter with the Lord, with other people, we started a prayer group in this Muslim school, you know, and it was very good to have the students gather and have time of prayer, have time to go through the very experience that I went through of the Life in the Spirit seminar. And it was a time and an opportunity that God gave me to reach to the young people, and I see it was not just academic that I was giving, but also some spiritual truth.
Oh, that's fantastic. And also during that time you met your husband.
Yes.
Is he a teacher too?
No, he is not a teacher. He was working and doing forestry. Yes.
And is there a bit of a spiritual journey with you finding your husband?
Sure, there is a story. It so happened like I did not meet him when I was at the university, but he had just left, I think 1 or 2 years. And as I stepped in this very prayer group Remember I told you after my experience of the encounter with the Lord, I kept going to this prayer group, you know, for formation, and somehow his name came along in this prayer group. And I didn't know the kind of Fred they were talking about. So when I left university, I go for a certain program. It was a school of evangelization. And here I met Fred.
So you already had his name on your mind.
In my mind, but I didn't know who he was. So it was a break time, so I go to him and I'm like, are you the Fred I've been hearing? And then he says, what have you heard about me? Well, that's how everything began.
That's fantastic.
Yes.
And it was love at first sight, or love when you first saw the word Fred.
Yes. Yes.
No, that's fantastic.
And so we started journeying and walking together and seeing if the Lord really wanted us to be together for life. And it turned out, yes, we became husband and wife.
And how did you see that, you know, how did you discern? When you say you were seeing whether it was God, how did you do that?
We talked, we had time to talk and to pray with each other and also to get wisdom from other mature people, you know, so that it's not just I want to take this person, but to really have the peace in my heart that this is the person that God has really meant.
So you took counsel from other adults?
Other adults. But also within my heart, I loved him and I felt this peace. When I saw myself picturing walking with him to the altar, there was a peace inside of me. And that's how I really came to decide.
Yes, it's fantastic. So you didn't have a doubt in your heart?
I did not have a doubt. I came to the place where I had the peace in my heart.
Yes, it's very contrary to some people who walk, you know, about to get married and they start to get all these doubts and they say, oh, I can't. They think, oh, we have to go ahead because of all the presents and all that. So it's good you followed the peace.
Sure.
Yes, and did that lead you to, because one of your aims is to, raise money for a school. Is that how, through being a teacher, that you had this desire to start a school?
It is a little after being a teacher, because I taught for 9 years. And then after the 9 years, together with Fred, we had this sense on our heart to be able to do something for our people, you know. And we, as being part of the Holy Trinity community, there was a need, you know, for somebody to be there, not just once in a while, but to be part on a consistent basis of the youth group. So actually both of us, we finally left our jobs and we started to work full-time with this youth ministry.
Wow.
And on the journey with this youth ministry, this is where we come face to face with the reality of young people struggling, you know, dropping out of school because there is no school fees, you know, and this in a way has brought us to a place where we both feel, and as part also of the Holy Trinity community, that we need to do something in regard to providing a comprehensive education where people are not only given the academic, but something to do with their faith, you know, with the academic and also with the skills that they can use for life.
So there's not many schools in Uganda?
They are there, but they are few, and not everyone can access them.
And there are not many schools that have faith based?
They are few. They are few.
So it's a fantastic vision to have. Is there a lot of steps to take to lead to getting that school?
Yes, and we know that this is not something we can just do by ourselves, and that's why we're asking for people to be able to partner with us to be able to establish this.
Yes, yeah. And how many people in your youth group go to schools?
The youth group are set in a way. There are some that come to the parish when it is time for holidays, and then there are those that we usually go to in the school times during a weekend. It can be one day, but overall in a year we reach up to about 30,000 young people.
Wow.
With this youth group that we work with.
Yeah, so you have a team.
We have a team, sure. We don't work alone.
And
we
you
have
go
a
to
team of
schools.
other 10 young people that we work with.
That's fantastic. I mean, it's inspiring that you have a vision and you're doing things for God.
Yes.
On that note, we're going to go for a break now. You're watching Spirit of Life. Stay with us and we'll be back in a few minutes. Hello, welcome back to Spirit of Life. I'm Geraldine Lee, your host, and our guest is Pauline Mawanda. She's been sharing her faith journey and also her ministry to youth. Welcome back, Pauline.
Thanks, Geraldine.
You've been sharing about how you have been working with the youth and now are thinking of starting a school for the youth, which is fantastic, and the community. So with the youth in schools, how is it difficult or different to in Uganda?
It's really very difficult because, and when you see the children especially, and especially the girls, there is a lot of demand that is put on a girl child when growing up in Uganda and in Africa, because it is not just going to school, but they will be expected to do household duties. So they will need to go and fetch water, go for a distance before they go to school. They need to be helping out at home. And in a way, some of these issues put pressure on a girl, and some of them actually for the parents, if there is limited resource like money, they would prefer to put a boy in school and leave out the girl. And so it leaves them in a way very vulnerable. Actually, some of them you would find at age 12, because of failure to go to school, they are forced to go and get married at a very early age. You have issues of teenage pregnancy. Things are very different.
Yes, I suppose you would experience that in your school, your youth group.
Yes.
Do you find that you can help them, or is there resources in your community to help these young girls?
I think in a way we look forward to this school project, because if we have an opportunity to put the girl in school, in a way it gives them a safety, because education is very important in our circles, because it means you're giving this child a future, an opportunity to be able to be somebody in society and to open doors. If a child, especially a girl child, is not in school, then every opportunity is totally closed. But this education gives them a place, gives them a skill, so that they could be able, to be able to live and to be what they should be.
Yes, in Australia we take it for granted because here school is all provided and it's free. And there it's only when you can pay, is that?
When you can afford.
Oh, really? And you don't have to go to school if you don't want to?
Well, some people would love to, but they don't have the opportunity.
Oh, right.
Yes.
Wow. So there's a lot of needs, and how do you keep going, with your work with the youth and doing full-time ministry? What keeps you going?
I think I bless God for being part of this Holy Trinity community, because in a way this is where I draw strength, this is where I draw support, and it's also like, it's not about me, it is a community, people who are open to mission, people who want to live for a purpose, people who want to put their gifts to use. And so I find myself that I'm supported by being part of a community. So even when there are struggles and feel like giving up, I know that I am not alone. So I have found community to be a good place that keeps me going. And where we have moments of prayer and sharing and supporting with one another. And I think also community has opened me to have opportunities to be trained, to be formed, you know, and this helps me to be a better person so that I can be able to give my best.
Yes.
So.
And can you think of a time when you were struggling and one of the community members helped you? Can you think of an incident of any sort that really stays in your brain, or it's more general helping?
I think it's more general, but also there are times when in my own life as a person I'm struggling, you know, with prayer, and in a way I feel dry. I feel there isn't much I can be able to give, and sometimes I'm very afraid. I fear to do something new. But then as I share this in the community, I get prayer, I get encouragement, and it's like, we believe in you. You can do it. You have been doing this.
Yes,
so I find
those words,
a community, you know, inspiring and giving me the go-ahead.
That's fantastic. And do you actually live together with your community, or you're nearby each other, or how do you?
Well, our community is set up in a way that there are some people who stay inside the community setting, and then there are others who stay outside in their families. So I'm one of the members who stay with family, so I don't live in the community. I stay with my family, and we meet every once in a month as a community, and also as a small group we meet once in a month.
Yeah, fantastic. And do you have boys together, men together in the small groups, and women in another group, or do you have mixed groups?
In the small groups, we are all mixed. We have the families and the husband and the wife, and the, you know, men and women. We are all together. But when we meet for the community gatherings, sometimes we have sessions where we separate the women and the men, and we have to talk about issues as men and as women.
And since you've been to Australia promoting this mission of wanting to start a school, what have you found of the Australians?
I think one thing that I find with people in Australia is their love. I mean, we have been loved and welcomed in different families, in the communities where we have, you know, gone for prayer and mass. You can sense this love. And also something else that I believe is very real is the generosity of the people. And people are like, let us know the different ways we can help. We will be able to do it. So the love and the generosity has stood out for the people in this country.
Yeah, no, it's you're a very open person. And your husband, I'm going to be interviewing next week with Fred, so about his faith journey. So that will be really good. And thank you very much for being in our program. And I wish you all the best. And God bless you.
Thank you so much for the privilege and the opportunity to be here. Thank you.
You've been watching Spirit of Life. Stay tuned for next week, because we're going to have Fred speak. And wishing you goodbye and God bless you.